What you're about to watch is an excerpt from the larger all-achievement guide for CK3 that I made just a little while ago. If you're watching this right when the video comes out, then the CK3 all-achievement guide is releasing in just under a week. But if you're watching this in the future, then you can look in the description to find a link to the video. I'm not going to pad out this intro very much longer, I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows this is an excerpt from a larger video. If you want to see the whole video, look in the description. Enjoy. For this next one, we're combining two relatively simple but time-consuming achievements, and those are Iranian Revival, which requires us to take the Iranian Resurgence ending in the Iranian Intermezzo struggle, and Rise of the Ghurids, which requires us to start as the Duke of Ghur in 867 or 1066, and to conquer the region of the historical Ghurid Empire. Obviously, because we are doing Iranian Revival, we have to start in 867 for Rise of the Ghurids, because the Intermezzo doesn't happen in 1066. The estimate for this run is about 2.5 to 4 hours, and the RNG presence is medium. Let's get into it. We're going to be dropping in as the Duke of Ghur of the Ghurid dynasty, of course, since we have to. And this run basically revolves on getting the vast majority of the work done as this one character. Right when we drop in, we're going to take a scholarship focus because although we're a stewardship character, we actually need to focus on getting to the sanctioned loopholes perk, as well as using the perks later to get lots of health so we can live long enough to pull off the run. We start off as a Buddhist, and that just isn't really going to work for this run because there's a lot of war going and we don't want to be a pacifist. So your first goal is going to be to change religions. We do that by taking a pilgrimage, and since we're going on a pilgrimage, it's a long one, we're going all the way to Eastern India. We're also going to make a custom route and visit as many places as we can to get lots of lifestyle experience. We're looking for stewardship experience explicitly because we need to get the meritocracy perk, and I don't want to have to spend time on a stewardship focus to do that, nor do I want to reset my perks and waste that opportunity that I'm going to use later. So set up a custom route and visit every stewardship granting location that you can, and just whatever stuff is on the way anyway. You might as well visit as much stuff as possible because there's no need to rush. Take your time, visit all the locations, then get to the holy site. This pilgrimage obviously has a ton of danger along the way, and this is one of your early RNG hurdles. If you die in the beginning, or if you get maimed, or some kind of horrible thing happens to you, just restart. Don't waste your time trying to play with a hobbled character. I like to get it done right away in terms of the RNG, just because that way the resets don't hurt as much. During my speedruns, I tend to reset at least once or twice every stream on this run, because someone loses a leg, and that's not okay. Once you've made your way over to the actual pilgrimage site, you should by this point have at least one stewardship perk. Anything else you get is a nice bonus, so you don't necessarily have to get it, although I like to get extra perks when I can. But the only thing you need is one stewardship perk. If you don't get that, then you didn't do this route right, and you need to reroute so that you can actually get one stewardship perk. You should also have almost max level piousness if you took such a long route. It's possible you won't, in which case hopefully you get it once you're actually at the holy site, but in my case I tend to always have maximum piousness right away. During my run, I actually had 2 resets due to dying on the way through this pilgrimage, so that's why you'll see that the timer has jumped quite far ahead, despite me only finishing the pilgrimage now. Next up, we convert to any kind of Islam that's hostile to the Azarika, which in my case I chose Ash'ari just because it's kind of like the default Islam, you could say. Sorry, Shias. And then we're going to get ourselves an alliance with anyone who's strong enough to help us against the Azarika people to our west. These guys have event-spawned troops, so they're pretty strong to start off, but you can take them down with an alliance for sure. Be careful when finding an alliance. Make sure that whoever you find is also a detractor of the Caliphate, because people who are the opposite of you in the Intermezzo will not support you in wars, even against heretics like the Azarika. So make sure to check, are they a detractor of the Caliph? Are they strong enough to help me beat the guys to my west? If yes, go ahead. We're going to use a Holy War CB against the Heret Azarika Muslims and try to claim the land for ourselves, and this will be sort of our main territory, you could say. This will be the domain that we use for the rest of the run. Once you finish that war, we're going to solidify our realm by getting rid of the only vassal that we have in Upper Ghur, which is actually our uncle, or is it brother? I forgot. But point is, get rid of him. We're also doing this because it's going to drive our dynasty towards antagonism. We're going to need the antagonistic house unity in order to do invasions over and over again. So this is a good way to start off that movement. Once you revoke Upper Ghur, you should have enough domain limit to be able to hold all the counties, although probably not the mosques. So give away the mosques, hold the counties, and now we're going to begin snowballing this run into the massive empire that it's going to become with relative ease. We're going to be swearing fealty to the Safarid Sultan, but before doing that, we actually want to take advantage of the religious exemption fealty option by converting to Mu'tazilism. Mu'tazilism actually is one of the best Muslim sects in the game, purely because it gives you more learning perk progress, which is crazy, and it's righteous to Ash'ari Muslims because we both have the same Caliph. So, become Mu'tazili, then swear fealty with religious exemption. Now, we don't really need the exemption because we're seen as righteous, so Go to your contract and get rid of your religious exemption in return for council rights. Now you've got free council rights as a vassal of the Saffarids, which will make claiming their throne way easier. I kind of did all that really quickly during the stream, so just to kind of explain it in a couple steps that I'll show on screen for you. First, you convert to Mutazili, then you swear fealty with religious exemption, then you remove religious exemption in return for council rights, then you begin claiming the throne. Don't forget, of course, to actually ask for your council position, because having a council position makes it much easier to claim the throne. Then we just wait. I had a little bit of a complication in my run, and that's that the Safarid Sultan happened to have a claim on my primary title, which he then attempted to revoke, which he could do without tyranny because he had a claim on it. The way to prevent this is to have a good opinion with the Sultan, but if you can't do that, he may end up revoking your title. Now, if you accept, it's pretty much game over because you lose all of your domain and most of your power, and if you reject, then you're in a war against a target who probably will defeat you. But sometimes, if you reject these, other vassals will help you fight, and if you can win, then you can depose the ruler, which would make your ability to claim the throne even easier. So with that in mind, I declined, not expecting much, but ultimately being able to defeat the Safarid Sultan simply because I had the support of other vassals and my own allies who I could call in. This usually won't happen, and this is quite the complication. It can be quite disastrous and probably will result in a reset for most people, but if it happens, it happens. You can work your way through it. That's kind of the fun of Crusader Kings 3 speedruns, is that if you're good at the game, you can always finagle your way out of pretty much anything except for death. Anyway, let's kind of resume the normal track of the speedrun here, which is back to claiming the throne, which all I did was restart the claim throne scheme against the next king. Once you've got the claim, make a faction to install yourself as the king of the Safarids, and then wait until you have a good opportunity to fight. And when I say wait, I mean more make the right opportunity by assassinating the Sultan over and over again. Because you have council rights, you can always request the position of Spy Master, and if you're Spy Master, even with a 0 intrigue character, you can pretty easily kill the Sultan. So murder the Sultan until there's like a 3-year-old on the throne, and then if you can, if it's convenient, wait for an opportunity where the Sultan's in debt due to a war or something. The AI is pretty likely to just give you its title if you demand it when there is a child on the throne who doesn't have the brave trait or anything that's particularly bold, and they have debt. If that happens, you won't have to even fight for the throne. So wait for the opportunity and then push the claim and see what happens. If you're lucky, you get the throne. If you're not, you have to fight for it, but you can pretty easily win using allies, so nothing too bad. Once that war is done, or if you receive the throne peacefully, you get to be the Safarid king, and this is where we start expanding real fast. First of all, wrap up any wars that your liege was in before you claim the throne, and also get the Rich and Diversity achievement. I don't even know how that happened, but there it is. It's that easy, I guess. Okay, so we're at peace now. Let's talk about what we actually have to accomplish. First of all, the Iranian Resurgence is something which looks complicated, but actually really isn't. Basically, at a very simple level, you have to control 30% of the Persian Empire, which you already almost do just with this land alone, and you have to ensure that the land in the Persian Empire is controlled by Iranian people. So our targets are going to be Turks and Arabs, which sounds really racist, but trust me, it's just part of the game. We have to make sure that the people that actually hold the counties, so not just like dukes and kings and stuff, but actual county holders are Iranian. This is easy or difficult depending on how the AI chose to do hybrids. If you have hybrids on, there will be some Bedouins who almost always will form Perso-Bedouin culture. If they chose to keep the Arabic heritage, then that means you have to conquer them. If they chose to become Iranian heritage, then they literally have done your job for you. So it's going to depend on that. The big target is going to be those Turks, though, as they've probably been doing sponsored conquests throughout the region recently, and we have to get rid of them so as to have the correct number of counties controlled by Iranian people. They don't even have to be your vassals, although it's going to end up being the case that they're all going to be your vassals because you're conquering them. But literally, if they are Iranian, doesn't matter if they're in your realm or not, they count. Before going too ham, though, we're actually going to take some time to build up our domain, and that's because this run is long enough that domain will matter. We're going to take advantage of the stabilization phase during the Iranian Intermezzo, because the stabilization phase gives cheaper buildings and cheaper men-at-arms. Quite a bit cheaper buildings, quite a bit cheaper men-at-arms, I must really imply here. During the stabilization phase, go ahead and just spend all your money on buildings and men-at-arms so that we can be powerful enough to not have to worry about things. If you're feeling like a true speedrunner, you can throw caution to the wind and try to conquer things as fast as possible and just try to put down factions and stuff like that. But during marathon runs like this, keep in mind I'm like 5 hours to do a speedrun here. I don't want to take those risks, so I'd rather just make the run take about maybe 20 minutes to half an hour longer in return for total security. If you build up your domain and you max out your men-at-arms, factions will never even get strong enough to possibly defy you, let alone will they be difficult to put down. Once you feel satisfied with the money and the men-at-arms that you have, it's time to actually start going to war, and I recommend just sweeping through all of the small dukes that are going to be in Western Persia. The Abbasids may or may not be strong, it doesn't really matter either way, but if they've been weakened, then you might see areas like Fars and Khuzestan breaking free, but if they don't, you can always fight the Abbasids later using the Invasion CB, which we're going to be doing a bit later in this run. For now though, Holy War for Duchy against all of the Western Persians, most of them are going to be the wrong religion, and if they're not, it's very cheap just to convert to a different religion, Holy War them, then convert back. I do recommend staying on Mutazilism for most of the run, because we're going to be on learning focus for a long time, and getting the extra progress towards perks speeds things up real nicely. If you've conquered most of the more minor Persian nobles, we're going to have to worry about getting enough prestige to do invasions, and it can take a long time to get that much prestige. The best ways to get prestige are Grand Weddings and Grand Tours. Now, I learned later in my run that Grand Weddings actually give way more prestige than any other event for a much shorter amount of time. So I'm going to say this right now, and that's that if you want to get prestige, don't even worry about Grand Tours, just do Grand Weddings. But for the purpose of this run, I was doing Grand Tours because I hadn't yet learned. Grand Tours still work anyway, so it works out, but it's just less efficient. Anyway, do Grand Tours, visit as many people as you can, make sure to do Majesty Tours to get a bunch of prestige, and we need to get up to the Illustrious level. Not exalted among men, because if we have the maximum antagonism level in our house for the Ikta mechanics, then we can declare an invasion even with Illustrious level fame. So it's not that bad, it's pretty easy to get to. Once I had Illustrious fame, I immediately went after the Tahirids because they're a relatively large part of the Persian Empire, and to be honest with you, I actually shouldn't have. Because I already owned enough land to do the Persian Empire part of the Iranian Resurgence, I went after them because they were a good target, but I actually need to be going further west to get the Arabs out of the Persian Empire. That's actually the problem. So I'd say don't actually go north or east, you want to just keep heading west. That being said, I probably did it more because I needed more strength to fight the Abbasids. Depending on your run, the Abbasids may be quite strong or quite weak, it'll just depend on what's going on. If they're too strong, take the time to build up by conquering weaker people first. If they're weak, pounce on them while they're weak. After conquering the Zaidis of Daylam, who were Arabs, and replacing them with Iranians, I actually was able to get the Iranian Resurgence ending, and now those special units that I got are going to carry me when I do my conquests east. This is the first half of the run, the Iranian Resurgence, but now I have to do Rise of the Ghurids. We have to conquer basically most of North India. You can check the actual borders of the historical Ghurid Empire, as it's called, by going to the achievement list, and there's a little tooltip you can click to see where it is. But effectively, it's the vast majority of North India. I'm not going to cover this part of the run too much, purely because it's just war after war after war, using the Invasion CB. The only advice I'll give is to keep this in mind about the unique clan CB. Using invasion as a clan has a sort of different property than any other kind of invasion, and that's that clan invasions also take the primary title from the character you're invading. This is important because if you're fighting a person who has only one kingdom, you will take their one kingdom. That means you also take all their vassals. So finding targets who have just one kingdom who you can use your invasion on will take their entire realm, whereas fighting targets who have two kingdom titles will just take the one kingdom plus any vassals in that de jure border. This is a very important difference, because it can make conquering parts of India way faster. Certain kings will have one kingdom title, and if they have that, get on them before they can get a second one. It also means it's often worth it to find a two-kingdom realm, and then murder the king such that they split in half with one kingdom each to their children, and then conquering those children separately. That's the best advice I can give. Beyond that, it's literally just win the wars, conquer, win, keep winning, and they're so weak it's not very difficult. Using your event spawn troops from making the Persian Empire use the Iranian Resurgence, you have more than enough strength to win most wars. I'm skipping ahead straight to the end here just because I don't really have much more to say about the run, but the only thing I'll say is if you're really fast, you'll get this done in one character, which I did in my run. But if you're not super fast, or if you just have some bad luck, you might have to do a succession. And the nice thing about being a Muslim is that kinslaying is legal, so it's very easy to set up succession. Find the kid that you like, and then kill everyone that isn't him. Just imprison plus execute. It's very simple. The only problem is if you have kids who might run away when you try to imprison them, and that can be really annoying. But if that happens, then when succession happens, just depose yourself until you play as the kid you want to play as. You should eventually end up playing as someone who you actually want to be playing. The only thing to be careful about is not risking losing the run at the very end here. If you actually have a succession, feel free to take the time you need to stabilize before fighting more enemies. It's better to lose 10 minutes to stabilizing your realm than to lose the entire run to a dissolution faction at the last minute. This is particularly prevalent because if you're using the strategy I mentioned about invading single kingdom realms and then taking all their vassals, you're going to have a ton of wrong culture, wrong religion people who are going to be very upset at you all the time. That can be tough to deal with, so definitely take your time and be careful. That's the best advice I can give. Beyond that, it's literally just declaring wars and winning them. It's not much more to say. That's pretty much the run. Let's take a look at the next run.
So again, not a super perfect.
That was the true Rise of the Ghurids, which included the Iranian Resurgence for some extra flavor to the Ghurid Rise. It's a pretty fun run, and if you enjoyed it, definitely check out the All Achievement Guide, which will come out pretty soon if you watch this right away, or already has come out if you're from the future, and check out my Twitch channel to watch speedruns like this live. Thank you for your time.